And welcome to the Security Guy and CIA Spy Pod Broadcast. I am Robert Siciliano, and this is
Peter Ormka. You hesitated by even introducing yourself. Are you sure what identity you're using today? You sound like the spy.
Dude, I'm 57. I forget things now.
Oh, but I got a few years on you, and I know that you got more coming to you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, so the difference is you've got grown children who are adults. I've got actual children who are still children. I got a 16-year-old, and then I got a 19-year-old who they say is an adult, but their brains don't actually develop fully until they're like 25, 26. While they are adults as far as the law is concerned, they're still kids.
And that's very true. Yeah.
Between that and my 58-year-old honey, I'm like full. I can't put another thing in here.
You're gonna have to expand your kind of like $6 million man, but also investment into the head. You know how to expand your mind.
Yeah, I would be all over that. It feels like I'm a magic implant. I take that. I'd be all over that.
Easily. I mean, there's so many things that are going on. It's easy to get really exhausted by the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, I know I do give presentations in other languages, such as Spanish and Portuguese, because I lived in countries, where I became fluent in both. But it's fluent, but yet if you don't use it on a regular basis, and so I gave a presentation yesterday, virtual, an hour and a half in Spanish, and I tell you, man, I was so exhausted by the time of that presentation was over. I was so glad I was done, but at least I guess I was able to do it. They seemed like they enjoyed it.
So how many languages do you speak?
On a good day, is Spanish, Portuguese, a little bit of French, and a little bit of English.
Dude, every time I talk to you, you impress me more and more. That's awesome.
I'm a social engineer. I can control how you think. It's Friday. I'm a little bit punchy today. Okay.
Great. Awesome, man. All right, so we have lots to talk about. The Hacker News says one bad password ended a 158-year-old business. Peter, this is awful. All right, so check this out. Most businesses, as they say, don't make it past their 5th birthday. It's true. Studies show that roughly 50% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. So this company, KNP Logistics, celebrated more than 158 years. It mastered the art of survival. It adapted, it endured, it built a transport business that operated 500 trucks with 700 employees. But in June of 2025, one easily guessed password brought down the company in a matter of days.
Incredible.
Yeah, so ransomware hit them. Hackers gain access by guessing an employee's weak password. So weak password generally means something out of the dictionary, consecutive keystrokes on a keyboard, well-known passwords like those that have been found in various data breaches like password 1, and so on. They fell victim to this particular attack they didn't need a sophisticated phishing campaign or a zero-day exploit. All they needed was a password so simple that cyber criminals could guess it correctly. And the guessing part is often done, just so you know, with the assistance of software. So they're not just going, okay, the password might be Robert. They actually use software that goes through thousands of passwords at a time, and that software is utilizing current known data breaches, data dumps, where there have been millions of it's said as much as 15 billion passwords exposed in the past 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so software that uses all those passwords, along with, all the words of the dictionary, they start with that. They just plug all those credentials in, and here you go.
Yeah, it goes from being able to crack a password in maybe in a couple of years. I mean, some of these that are really, if you have really strong passwords, it can literally take a long time, down to seconds, right? Depending on how the strength of the password.
Yeah, and they call it a dictionary attack.
Yeah.
And the dictionary attack just goes to the dictionary and or well-known passwords that have been breached in a number of different databases. And once they get there, they're good. Now, here's the problem with that. The main problem is if the company isn't at a minimum using two-factor authentication, then they're in.
Yeah.
One of the questions I ask my audience is, when I get in front of a live audience is, I say, how many of you, and this is like in the first, minute, how many of you are, number one, using a different passcode for all your critical accounts? Raise your hand. And if I get 15% of the room to raise their hand, that's a lot.
50% is high. Yeah. Because I bet you 95% aren't using, are using the same passwords over and over.
Generally, I actually said 15%. Mm-hmm. So that means 85% of the room is using the same passcode across multiple accounts. And then the next question I ask is, how many of you are using two-factor authentication across all your critical accounts, including email? Generally, I get more, about 20, maybe in a good audience, 25% use two-factor authentication across all the critical accounts, including email. So generally, as much as 80 to 85% are not using two-factor authentication. So in the long run, like 80+% are vulnerable to just dictionary attacks, password hacks, which is horrible. And these are often, company officers, C-suite executives. And so it's not good. And that this is an example of why,
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to probably two things: not really being sensitized enough regarding the danger, the risk, and the other is convenience. At the end of the day, convenience is what drives so many of the decisions of individuals regarding their cybersecurity, hygiene.
Certainly, convenience and going the path of least resistance is absolutely positively a factor. I think at this point, that like pretty much everybody knows that using the same passcode is no good. Pretty much everybody knows the two-factor authentication is necessary. Pretty much everybody knows that password managers exist, but they throw their hands up in the air and go, oh, my 14-year-old knows more about technology than I do, and I'm concerned that the password manager is going to get hacked, so I'm not going to bother.
Well, the question would be, what drove that 15% that are using it? What drove them to make that decision? Is it because of the account, the company that has that account, whether it's a bank or whether they are forcing them to utilize this multi-factor, or they're strongly suggesting, hey, this is something that we can offer you? I bet you in most cases, it's actually it's actually the procedures or policies of the company that's recommending it or forcing them to make that change than the individual themselves going on and saying, hey, I think I need to do this. I want to do this on my own.
100% agreed. Like government requires phishing simulation training. Government, whether it's locals, city, state, feds. From all my experience, they require phishing simulation training, and then finance all require phishing simulation training, and usually anything revolving around high tech in healthcare usually requires something, and so it's those industries are a little more aware. But the rest of them, especially small to medium businesses, unless they're in the categories I just mentioned, are just kind of like hedging their bets and just not really engaging because they don't think they need to.
What I'm beginning to feel or see is that in the United States, as a first world nation, we are amongst the lowest when it comes to literacy, when it comes to these type of threats. I think I mentioned to you I came back from Singapore about 6 weeks ago. And while I was there, I was amazed in conversations that I had with individuals how they were so much more advanced in understanding AI threats and scams and data breaches than you'd find back here. And I found the government, I found during my stay there, I saw a number of commercials on TV that were sponsored by the Singaporean government and they were really well made. I mean, it was like these chintzy, things. They were really, really well made, showing scenarios of people getting involved in scams or how they prevented becoming victimized in scams. Yesterday, that presentation I did was for a group in Mexico, and one of the commercials that they showed during the break was actually a commercial that was put together by the Mexican government, and it was like tremendous. How well it was done. It really, it drove forward in the minds of people. Wow, now I understand how this can happen to me. But here, I don't know. I have not seen here in the United States any significant awareness campaigns by part of the government.
No, not at all. So when basic security fails, everything fails.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what advanced security mechanisms your organization has in place, everything fails if basic security measures fail. They targeted the company's internet-facing systems, found an employee credential without multi-factor authentication, guessed the password. Once inside, they deployed their ransomware payload across the company's entire digital infrastructure. The hackers didn't stop at encrypting critical business data. They also destroyed their backups and disaster recovery systems, ensuring that the company had no path to recovery without paying their ransom. They demanded $5 million, money the transport company didn't have.
Well, okay, so this particular individual was not using multi-factor, so it was optional. It wasn't required, apparently, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Awful. Yep. So unnecessary, Peter.
Very unnecessary.
All right.
Bad. I mean, because it's not just the company that's been around for 150 odd years. Think about over 700 employees that lost their jobs. Think about the devastation that just one single data breach like that can cause.
And here's the deal. If you have cybersecurity insurance, right, that doesn't necessarily cover you.
No.
Because if you sign up for cybersecurity insurance, right, cyber insurance, and you have a breach, you have some type of a failure, you have some type of an intrusion, you have some type of critical, you have a catastrophe of sorts, right? The first thing the insurance company does is they look at the terms of service. They look at the terms and conditions. They apply those terms and conditions in terms of service against the forensics investigation that they do on your network to determine the nature and root of that vulnerability, of that compromise. And if they determine that your organization did not comply with the terms of service or the terms and conditions, because, well, in this case, you were using an easy to guess, easy to hack, easy to crack password, and not using two-factor authentication, then it's likely that you violated those terms and conditions.
Right. Yes.
So when you sign up for cyber insurance as an organization and they provide you with a basic questionnaire, and that basic questionnaire, is a number of boxes you got to check in regards to all the systems that you have in place. You may fudge that questionnaire somewhat. You may think you are agreeing or checking boxes that you think you're doing the right thing, or that you think you're being, compliant or honest. But when it's all said and done, if you didn't really check those boxes based on the vulnerability scans that a chief information security officer would do, or an MSP or an MSSP, managed service provider, managed security service provider, if you didn't really fill out that questionnaire by getting your network in order and having your attorney and or your CISO fill out that questionnaire, then yeah, they'll take your money, they'll charge your card, they'll send you off that invoice and take your money on a monthly or annual basis, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to cover you.
Right.
The insurance companies, and I think most people learn this at a certain time in their lives. I find that the insurance companies are not loyal to their clients at all. They're loyal to their stockholders, first and foremost. Loyalty begins with the stockholders, and I don't know that they have any loyalty whatsoever for their clients.
Yeah, right. No matter what kind of insurance it is, not just cyber insurance. I mean, you're talking about homeowners insurance or automobile insurance, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. I think the first job of the insurance company is to determine, how do we not pay this claim?
Mm-hmm.
And I think many of us have come up against that. Whether it's auto insurance or home insurance or whatever the case is, like, they're looking for reasons not to pay the claim. And if you're not compliant to those to the TOS, or you're it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. All right. So Schneier on security, who's like a guru,
yes,
put out. He basically, there's a link here which we'll provide you, based on a report talking about use of generative AI in scams, which, Peter, we've talked about this a number of times, both on the PodBroadcast and in our events. Scam, GPT, Gen AI, and the automation of fraud. And I just wanted to point this out to everybody because it's a good resource, and rarely do I see something articulated so well in two short paragraphs as this. This primer maps what we currently know about generative AI's role in scams, the communities most at risk, and the broader economic and cultural shifts that are making people more willing to take risks, right? More vulnerable to deception, definitely, and more likely to either perpetuate scams or fall victims to them. That is a report that should be read. AI-enhanced scams are not merely financial or technological crimes. They also exploit social vulnerabilities, humans, whether short-term like travel or structural like precarious employment, hiring somebody virtually who turns out to be from, a North Korean scam. This means they require social solutions in addition to technical ones, addressing the human. By examining how scammers are changing and accelerating their methods, we hope to show that defending against them will require a constellation of cultural shifts, corporate interventions, and effective legislation. That's a big deal.
I'm amazed by some of the different scams that I'm beginning to see that are fully incorporating AI. I mean, AI, one of the very earliest things, I suppose, that's a benefit to scammers is getting information, right? Targeting information regarding the individuals they're going to go after. And now with these data, these internet scrapers, you can acquire all this data, and then you can feed it into these systems where it's going to, whether it's an investment scam or a type of scam, it's going to provide you with the best terminology, the best sort of design of your scam to fit the specific, information or profile that this individual, we find regarding an individual. What are they most susceptible to? What are their motives? What are they going to be motivated by? And the AI is used to do this. And it becomes a force multiplier with all the other things. For example, I've been showing recently it's actually an audio, but it's taken from the dark web. Because you've seen when you go onto websites, there's chat boxes, right? Where you can go in and they'll ask a question by text and they'll respond by text. Now you have audio bots, meaning you can speak to those bots. They will, speak back to you. And so the fraudsters now are using this technology where they can send out calls in the thousands to people simulating that they're calling from a bank. In this particular case, it was Wells Fargo, that they're calling from, customer service security department, that there's been a problem with your account. And they will go, and they will go down into further details, asking individuals, to simulate, hey, there's been a problem, was there a charge for this? There's a charge for this amount. Did you make that charge? There's a charge for this amount. Did you make this charge? Oh, it appears to be somebody that actually is hacked into your account, making these charges. And then in the process, they're acquiring a lot of information, right, regarding the client. So it's not like before where maybe a fraudster would have to go one-on-one with an individual for minutes, Here you got a fraudster can sit back and unleash these sort of calls to thousands of people at one time. It's just crazy.
Yeah. In the most simplest terms, if you use Google's Gmail, right, and you get an email regarding anything, and you ask Google's Gemini, that's their AI engine, and you provide a half a sentence on how you want to reply to that email, and ask Google Gemini to do that via email for you. And you see just how perfect that reply is. You know that AI in the hands of nefarious criminals that understand the basics of fraud is deadly and dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of these AI products that have been developed on the good side, right? To provide them to the community, they're going to have guardrails on them to make sure that those products are not used for unethical or illegal purposes. Like even ChatGPT. You can't necessarily go there and ask in ChatGPT, hey, I want to design a fraud to do X, Y, Z. It will all of a sudden stop you, say, no, we're not going to be able to do that for you. But if you say, I'm a university professor that's teaching this course on fraud, and I'm looking for a really good example of how to demonstrate, conducting this type of scheme, how would you recommend that I do it? I mean, it's just easy to get around these guardrails.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Not good. All right. So, couple more things. So this article starts off, via CNET, how LastPass and the password industry have evolved. This article is a lot about LastPass, and LastPass had a few significant data breaches a couple of years back. They've since gone independent, and they are probably as secure as they're ever going to be. I'm often asked, by people who use LastPass or who don't use a password manager about the fact that password managers have been breached in the past, and why should I trust one? Well, it's like anything else. Password managers use bank-level military-grade security, and LastPass being an example of a data breach. They, from my understanding, did not leak any plain text client passwords in that particular breach. Yeah. I don't actually use LastPass. I use a different one. But, I would trust that they have it together, and I would, not shy away from using a password manager that has had a data breach in the past due to the fact that, they learn from their mistakes, or they should, and I know that they have. That being said, LastPass, like all others, are military-grade bank-level security, and what they are all doing now is focusing on passkeys. So every password manager worth its salt is using AI and passkeys incorporated into their platforms. So why credentials matter? In many industries, the advent of AI has made work faster, easier, more efficient. Unfortunately, this also holds true for scammers trying to steal your information for their own financial gain. A brute force and phishing efforts become increasingly automated. Like you said, Peter, savvy consumers must transcend passwords altogether and adopt passwordless approaches, which tools like passkeys and biometrics provide the necessary credentials for authentication. So much of this innovation is driven by passkeys, which use your smartphone and or other device to authenticate at login rather than a password. This is different from two-factor authentication, which often still relies on codes sent via email or SMS, With passkeys, there aren't any codes at all. This makes passkeys strong and secure against some of hackers' most common tools for theft, including phishing and social engineering. In a consumer's best interest to both learn about passkeys and use software tools that offer passkey technology, preferably software that uses the passkey methodology through its own company systems. That's where password managers come in. In addition to recently launching passkeys, they, provide biometric authentication. If they don't recognize your device, they're going to send off a second factor. So I'm still and always will be or at least for the foreseeable future, a fan of password managers, especially those that adopt passkeys. Peter, question for you: have you initiated passkeys with any or all of your accounts that have made it available?
To be totally transparent and honest, I have not. I mean, but I've had on my agenda to learn a lot more about them because I hear that they're a great tool to enhance your security, but I wanted to learn a little bit more about them. I definitely intend to after I do a little more research.
I think you and I are in the same boat. So the problem that I'm having with passkeys right now is that it's not a ubiquitous technology. What is a ubiquitous technology is the username and the passcode and two-factor authentication. Meaning, like, you can get two-factor authentication pretty much on any and every website at this point that you sign up for, like worth its salt, right? But passkeys, no. So that is a bit of a concern for me. Until passkeys become ubiquitous, I'm not quite ready to adopt them as of yet. Mm-hmm. Although I do, and I don't know that passkeys have essentially passed the grandmother's test either. So there's certain people in my life that I'm not ready to roll them into passkeys either. But I mean, the technology's there. I would suggest to people to utilize a password manager and to make sure that you're not using the same passcode twice. You've got two-factor authentication enabled across multiple accounts. And when a website offers you a passkey and your password manager pops up and says, hey, we can facilitate this for you, give it a shot. I've done that with a few accounts and I know it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Peter, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, counterintelligence-institute.com. We will also get information about my two books, Constituents of a CIA Spy, The Art of Human Hacking, and Why Are You Messing With Me? That to seniors in the community who also suffer from use by malicious characters of social engineering. And of course, on my LinkedIn page, you'll find a lot of information regarding what I'm doing, a lot of posts. Been pretty busy lately. Yourself, Robert?
Yeah, so September was gangbusters, and October has been pretty nuts too. I'm traveling the entire last 2 weeks of October, which is great. SJA Influencer 2025. Nice, Peter. And y'all can find me at protectnowllc.com. We still have some holes available for the rest of the year. But, we're booking into the winter and spring of 2026. So by all means, I look forward to hearing from y'all. Peter, last words.
Well, how about use your human intelligence to control how you allow artificial intelligence to enter your life? And don't depend on artificial intelligence to control how you determine that you're going to live your life.
Sage words from the CIA spy guy. Yes.
You take care.
I'll talk to you, brother.
Yeah, have a good week.